We don't want any child to grow up in poverty, and that's why I'm proud that there are 1.7 million fewer people living in poverty today than in 2010 because of the actions of this and previous Conservative governments. That includes hundreds of thousands of children.
I can't begin to tell you how angry boasts like this make me. It was a response to the Prime Minister being told of a child eating cornflakes with water because their parents couldn't afford milk. The harsh reality is that under this government, child poverty has just hit a record high. The number of children in food poverty has doubled in the last year. More than 4 million kids are now living in poverty. More than 4 million. That's a staggering 30% of all children in the UK. 1 million adults can't even afford to eat every day. 9 million are skipping meals and cutting back on food. A record 2.1 million people are now using food banks. Over 14 million now living in poverty, 2/3 of them actually in work. More than 3 million adults in hygiene poverty. We've got GPs prescribing nutritional drinks to starving patients, kids eating out of bins, the elderly forced to choose between heat and food. And I'll repeat this every single week if I have to. All that misery comes on top of a decade of soaring food banks, homelessness, falling life expectancy, fuel poverty and wage stagnation under successive Conservative governments.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very sorry to hear about the Honourable Gentleman's constituent. With regard to dentistry, he'll know there are record sums going into dentistry and indeed 500 more NHS dentists working today.
It's just more shameless smoke and mirrors. The Prime Minister keeps boasting about 500 more NHS dentists. But what he fails to mention is we have 500 doing a single checkup a year. People are now travelling hundreds of miles in search of dental treatment, and that's if they can find it. Some are actually pulling out their own teeth. 9 in 10 NHS dental practices across the UK are not even accepting new adult patients for treatment under the health service. 8 in 10 are not taking on children. In some parts of the country, dental deserts have left just one NHS dentist per 16,000 people. That's not exactly a record to boast about. And now the Prime Minister is giving us the same bollocks on GP numbers.
Well, we do have actually at the moment 2,000 more people working in general practice than we did previously.
In the figures the Prime Minister is boasting about, he sneakily included GPs who are not fully qualified and still in training. Trainee GPs don't see as many patients as fully qualified GPs. Some of their time is dedicated to education, and some of the appointments they carry out are supervised by fully qualified GPs, taking them away from seeing other patients. If you exclude trainee GPs, there are actually 823 fewer GPs now than there were in 2019. The simple fact is, despite promising to recruit 5,000 more GPs in 2015 and 6,000 more in their 2019 manifesto, there are now 2,000 fewer full-time, fully qualified GPs today than there were in 2015. Never underestimate just how thick this government thinks we all are.